Hello. It's time for the show. Everybody cheer. Oh, how does that guy on YouTube do that for 10 hours? I don't. Hang on, my phone's ringing. Hello. Oh, Gandalf. You liked it? Okay. See you later. Bye. Sorry, that was Gandalf. I met him at this event. He's this guy. So, welcome to David's Board Shorts, episode 5. That was a bit of French. Episode 5. Welcome to the show. It's time for the show. Oh wait, I did that. So, welcome to David's Board Shorts. So, my name's David, and I have board shorts, and I'd like to talk about board games quickly. So that's the name. This is a show, and it is a show on YouTube, but there's no visual entertainment. You may say that's a contradiction in terms, and it is. But I just want to talk, and YouTube's so easy to do it. And you know what? You've probably got data on your phone, so just listen to it without watching, because there's nothing to watch as you commute. That was a bit of English for you. All right, commute. So, welcome. So normally what I do, if you haven't heard this show, and it is a show before, is I talk about 3 games that I like of a different genre. That was a bit of French for you again. Genre. And then I pick a topic because I feel like it, and then I answer a question, and that's just because I only ever get one question. And like I haven't done one of these in months, and I still only got one question. That shows you something. And then I talk about something that I did once, and I'm up to the 5th game I ever released, Matcha. Or is it 5th? Well, it's the 5th episode. Yeah. So we'll talk about Matcha. And then I have the quiz, which is for you. The quiz that nobody entered. But that's okay. All right, so let's start with 3 games that I like. And today's 3 games that I like genre. That was a bit of French for you. Genre. The genre is roll and move games. And that's because I love roll and move games and no one ever else does. I'm sorry if that's like putting you down, but I don't feel the love. And I could really do more than 3. I'd love to highlight triple that. Games that people don't like or discount because they've got roll and move in it, but we'll just keep it to 3. And I looked at Board Game Geek, which is a repository. Repository. That's not a medical term. That means a place where things exist, held. A repository online of board game data. And on there, it lists 15,500 roll and move games. So to highlight just 3 is crazy, but as you can see, it isn't something that went away in the 80s with all those tie-in, what are they? Milton Bradley board games of every TV show and toy in the block. On the block. On the block. That's a good name for a roll and move game for some reason. It's still being done. It's still popular. Sure, they're mostly in mass market games, and this would probably be because it's a simple concept to understand, and it's ingrained in us thanks to games like what's that game? Monopoly and Backgammon, if you're even older. Sorry, something happened there. The Game of Life and Snakes and Ladders and Ludo. Sorry, is similar. So let's talk about 3 favorites of mine. I could talk about Monza, but I talked about that either in the car games episode or kids games episode. Merchant of Venus is, of course, a famous big game, which shows you that not just light games have roll and move. Merlin's another one from Steffenfeld. I'm going to talk about 3. I was going to talk about Camelot, but I won't. But I love that one too. So anyway, that would be 4. Maybe it is 4 now that I've just mentioned it. Let's talk about That's Life. In German, it's verflixt. This is, I think it's a Wolfgang Kramer game, or Wolfgang Kramer, isn't it? I should have this up. Wait, I've got the internet. It's post 1996 or so. That's Life is Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer. So the team that brought you Azul and Six Nimmt, but not together. So it wasn't a team. They teamed up many. They've probably won more SDJs than anyone, Kramer has. What am I talking about? That's Life. So I chose this because this is pure roll and move, but instead of a board, it's modular. So there's different tiles, and you can have them in certain setups as suggested by the game, these tiles, or in your own order, or just random. Most of them, okay, so you've got a number of pawns. Let's say 3, but it depends on player count. They all start at the beginning. Each player, you roll the dice, you move one of yours. Now, here's the thing. The person who leaves a tile last gets that tile. So if I roll a 6, land on a tile that says -10, I'm not going to move away from that till somebody else is on there. Then I'll move off, because if I'm the person to move off, leaving nobody on the tile, I get that tile, -10 points. Wow. There are some positive points in there, but it's mostly negative, and some, what are they, lucky clover tiles, where if you get those, they turn a negative tile into a positive tile. You go until everyone's home, but the board will shrink as things are taken out, and what was a 6 that got me onto a -10, maybe next time I choose to move my guy at the back, one of the guys at the back, it's now going to land me somewhere else. There are also these neutral pieces on the board that start on the clover tiles that count as a pawn in that rule of whoever's last gets it. So if they're on there, on a tile, I can leave that tile and that neutral piece is still on there, so I don't gain the tile, which might be the thing I want to do. Now, once somebody's moved equal to or past those neutral pawns, you can move them on your turn as well. Pretty simple, very stressful. Well, not really, but there's a lot of, angst in a simple roll and move game. That's what I love about these slightly older games from Germany. They just twist a concept like roll and move just a little bit, and by doing it, it just blows up in your face. And that leads me to the second one. It's got a few names: Top Secret Spies. Mine's called Undercover, I think. There's also the German, or actually maybe the current English edition is called Heimlich and Co., which is it's a detective game. Everybody's got a detective, different color, starts on a board. I think it's labeled, I think it's 0 to 10. There's a location that you're going to, like a shop, a cafe, a church. They're all 0 to 10 points. Oh, they're numbered 0 to 10, but there's also the church is 0, I think. And then there's a ruins, which is -3, or is it -2 points? Anyway, so you've all got a color of detective, but you don't know who each other's color is. Haha, thank you. This is another Kramer miracle. This is Wolfgang Kramer again. I'm really rambling today, aren't I? Wolfgang Kramer. So by the way, That's Life was 2005, produced by Ravensburger, Heimlich and Co. / Top Secret Spies / Undercover. It's originally 1984. It's still in print. That tells you something. So there's plenty of publishers, but I think mine is actually Ravensburger, but Amigo has it now. So what was I talking about? So you've got your dude, and it's at the start. Now, when you roll the dice, you can move anybody, and you can mix up that number. So if you roll a 6, you could move someone 6, you could move 3 people 2, one person 5, one person 1. You get the idea. And as soon as someone lands on a space with the safe in it, then everybody scores the number of points of the space they're on. Okay, pretty simple, right? And it's a looping board, by the way. Pretty simple, right? Yeah, except because you don't know who each other is and you don't want to give away who you are. I mean, if I'm yellow and I get make sure I finagle it so that I score 10 points 2 turns in a row and it's like first to 40 or something wins, people are going to start ganging up on me and moving me to the negative space, moving me to the zero space, getting me out of the way so that I don't win. I think at higher player counts, there's also neutral colors on there. So you're like, oh, is that him? Is that not? So with this simple, very simple roll and move thing, because you can move anyone and you don't know who anyone is, there's a lot of bluff comes into the game. Uh, and a lot of laughter at the end when you reveal who each person is. Now, the best way to play is the advanced mode, where I think it's after 29, someone gets to 29 points, everybody writes down a guess of who each player is, and when someone's won, you reveal and you score points based on who guessed correctly. So it adds in a bit of deduction as well. This is a really, really good game. It must have won the SDJ, correct? Yes, 1986. Ding. All right. Actually, that reminds me of another game so this is already turning into more than four, so I won't talk about this one much. But this reminds me of a game I called Midnight Party. That was what I think the original name was. Then it was called like Hugo the Ghost or something. Yeah, Midnight Party. But it's also called, I think now it's called in English, Escape from the Hidden Castle. And there's a ghost called Hugo for some reason. The reason I thought of this is it's another pure roll and move game by Wolfgang Kramer, also from the 80s, surely, yeah, 1989. And this did not win, but was recommended, I think, or nominated for the SDJ. That's another fantastic roll and move game that has some feel of Undercover or Top Secret Spies or Heimlich and Co. in it. But you know who each other is, but there's this sort of take that stuff going on. Check that one out too. Um, The third one I want to talk about is Tonga Bonga. This is by another famous designer from Germany, not Wolfgang Kramer. It is Stefan Dora. He did For Sale, surely. So he's done two classics. Yes, Tonga Bonga is a classic. This is from 1998. Probably not in print anymore. This is Ravensburger. They love family games like a lot of people. And this is so fun. So you've each got a ship that you're sailing around these islands to basically visit all the islands, earn points, get back home again. But the thing is that other people decide how much your boat moves because you roll 3 dice at the start of your turn and you've got to place one of these on each of the other people's boats. So if I roll a 1, a 1, and a 1, I'm happy with that. But if I end up getting 3, 2, and 1, my boat's only going to move 6 spaces. And if these other people get lots of sixes or whatever, they're moving a huge amount. So there's a lot of take that in this game. But it's so cool, isn't it? You roll 3 dice, simple twist like the others I said. You roll 3 dice, but you give them to other people. Now, why would you give certain dice to other people? Well, sometimes you can see what they're going for on the map. So you don't want to give them certain numbers. But also, before placing and rolling dice on the ships, uh, each player puts money on the spots available in their ship for crew, the dice of the crew. So you want money to win the game, right? That guy has put 7 ducats on that space, his captain spot. I've rolled a 6, say. Well, I don't want to give him 6 movement points, but I want that money. So there's this real like give and take, flip and flop, tug and toe about do I want to help him but help myself, or do I want to hurt her or him or whatever, whoever it is, and maybe hurt myself too. Now, when you place dice, so the first person to place dice has to put them in the highest spot. But when other people place dice to those ships, if they're higher numbers, they'll knock the previously placed dice down. So you might think you're going to get lots of money, and then you don't. So that's pretty cool as well. There's also one side of each dice is, I think, a sailor vomiting over the side of the ship. That basically doesn't get placed this round. So sometimes you get screwed and you don't even get 3 dice in your ship, 3 crew. But you know what? It means the games are close usually because um, there's a whole catch-up thing. That guy's winning. I'm not going to give them the good stuff. So that's Tonga Bonga. These are three fantastic roll and move games, and I suggest you try them before you buy them. But just try them. I love them. They're a roll and move. All right, back to the agenda. Not that it's a meeting, but we have an agenda, and the next item on the agenda is the topic of this episode, which is my favorite games of 2019. And you might think, I don't care what your favorite games of 2019 are. Oh, um, well, skip this bit. But I just like to talk about games. Now, I'm not going to mention, I've done this like 2 or 3 times before as a video. And I always usually wait till 6 months into the following year so I have a chance to play, the games that I think I might like and just for fun. I like to have a list. But it's so fluid. I mean, if I went back to my 2017 list, I'm sure it would be very different now. Just as my feelings have shifted and my opinions have changed and I've played other things, it's a very fluid thing. It's hard to put my favorites of a year in stone, but it's fun too. So, I forgot to add up how many I've played, but it's quite a lot. And the reason it's taken me so long, because I'm sure there's so many people waiting for this list. This The reason it's taken so long is because there was a game that I couldn't get in Australia that I knew was going to be on the list. At least I thought so, and it is. So I'll talk about that when I get there. But um, that was not till this month, September, that I got to play it. So that's why this has taken so long, if you care. Also, I'm not doing a video of it because it just takes so long. Not that I edit, but it just takes a long time, and I got to find a place to sit and be on the camera, and it's just a drag. So this is way quicker and better. At the end, I'll give you some honorable mentions that just missed out. But we'll start with number 10 of 2019, The Crew. This is, I forget, is it Thomas Singh is the designer? I know Singh is his last name. And it's from Cosmos. And this one, the Kennespiel des Jahres, a lot has been said about this already. The great thing about this is it's a cooperative trick-taking card game, and it just works. Works really well. I've played it at 2, 3, 4 players. It's just a treat, and I love the way it gets your brain to think because it's a pretty standard trick-taking game actually, but when you add in the fact that we can't communicate a lot and we're trying to work together to win certain tricks and in certain orders and stuff, it just makes you think in a really cool way, a different way. I love it a lot. I have played it 19 times, but it's number 10 because it's actually hard now to play it. I think that once everybody I knew had a go of it, they were done with it. I don't, unfortunately for me, have a group or people who would love to play just card games or trick-taking games a lot. I'd love a group like that or a partner to do that. If I had that, I would have played The Crew 100 times by now. I'm sure I would have gone through all 50 missions easily. Yeah, and I'd love someone to play cribbage with as well, but that's not on this list. But anyway, The Crew, it's just clever. Um, it's just fun, and you're never going to play it once in one sitting. Number 9 is Oriflamme. That's a French word. I mean, flamme is fire or flame. I'm not sure what Oriflamme means, but this is a card game for 3 to 5 players, I think. It's from Studio H, which is the new studio owned by Hatchet Publishing, the book company. This feels like Coup mixed with Citadels, I guess, because everybody's got certain characters in their personal decks, but you're playing them face down to a row that will trigger in an order, sort of going down the river of trigger, whatever that is. And then these characters will do things to the cards around them or itself, kill cards off, all this stuff. And it feels a bit like coup because there's a bit of bluffing about what could that be that I'm playing there. Once you've played it a few times, I've played it at least half a dozen times. Your first couple of times you're getting to know the cards. It's very quick, 10, 15-minute game. And then once you know the cards, you're like, oh, he's probably played this there. So I've got to treat that card like this, And then it turns out it wasn't that after all. It just looked like it. It's very fun, action, character, special power, quick card game that I really like. I can see myself playing this for many years over and over again. It's just really quick. Fits in the same sort of genre as for me as like a Jump Drive or um, what's another little card game that I love to play? There's one coming up on this list. You know, what the heck? Coup. That was not just me being rude. That's a game. Um, I think it was originally called Taj, wasn't it? Anyway, that's Oriflamme. Number 7. 7 is Runestones from Rudiger Dawn, one of my favorite designers. Uh, I've played this a few times, and basically what this is Karuba the card game, if you've played that, made into a bigger, longer game. This is about as heavy as Queen games usually get. Now, that's a big statement, actually. They've put out heavier games than this. I shouldn't make big statements, but it's not their usual family game 45-minute thing. It's probably an hour. Big difference. It's definitely a gamery thing. It's a deck building game, but the way you use your cards is so cool. Just like in Karuba the card game, you will play 2 cards which all have numbers. In this one, the higher numbered card you play, it is the higher one, isn't it? Higher one, isn't it? There's some ways to fiddle with that. The highest numbered card you play, which is usually the better card with the better power, will get destroyed or removed from your deck. So you've got to really figure out and plan ahead what card pairs, combinations are you going to be playing, and what cards are you happy to see go, what cards have to go, what cards do you really want to keep. Okay, so I'll make sure I play that with a higher number if I can. So that's part of it, but there's also this cool set collection thing and getting special powers that make each player unique. As you go, you can earn or buy these special powers, these rune stones that help you break the game, the rules, and it's just really cool, really fun. I've got a couple of expansions for it, which I haven't even played yet, but they look fantastic from the rule book, so love that one. Runestones. Number 6 is, what was it? Foodies. This is from Simon. I forget the designer, sorry. This is basically in the genre of, what is it? Like Space Base is in it. There's a Valeria game in it. And what's the other one? Machikoro. But it's basically the Catan idea of you roll dice on your turn, but everyone gets resources when you do that. In this one, you're building a food court, and you have 9 sort of booths or stalls in your food court, each representing one of 9 numbers on a 10-sided dice. A 0 means you get to pick. And it's just probably the most simple of these games. It's simpler than Machikoro even. It's a very gateway weight, family weight game, but I just love it. It's sort of like you're building an engine and you're in and out in 20 minutes with this game. That's all I think, without having really considered, I need from that mechanic. It's not something that's going to be easy to build a whole game around that doesn't drag or feel strange. Like this is a simple thing. It's going to be hard to make a long, satisfying, detailed, heavy game out of that, I think, for me anyway. But this simple, quick game called Foodies does it. I love engine building games. I love quick games. I love light games that give you purposeful decisions. And so far, all of these except Runestones, I would call light games that give you great decisions to make and fun times. But the thing about Foodies is there's also different, I guess, decks that you use each time, different nationalities of food. So it mixes up each time because you're going to be seeing different combinations. Like this time we got Mexican and Japanese and Chinese. Say next time you might have Russian food, shops, American, you know, Italian. I don't think we'll see expansions for it, but I'd love to see another couple of national decks mixed in with there. It's got a strange, not strange, that's a bit rude. The art style's different, not what I'd expect from this game, but for this game, this weight and this style. But gee, it's good. I have fun. I've played it a dozen times this year, and it's just fantastic. So that for me, so that was this is all my opinion, FYI. That's foodies. Number 5 is Llama. This is probably the game I've played most that's new in the last 12, 18 months. This was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres. I wanted it to win. It was my favorite of the 3 last year, but I didn't think it was going to because I think this is like if I had my time again and I had kids that, no, wait, let's say it was this game, okay, I don't know what that was about, but let's say this game came out 20 or 30 years ago. Families who have played Uno and similar games, if this was on the same shelf, they would just love it and eat it up, literally, because it's just a touch different to those sorts of games, those very simple family card games, that the rules are so simple and almost anyone can just pick it up and figure it out. But it's got just better, chunkier decisions, and all you do on your turn is play a card from your hand that's the same value as the card already out there or one higher, or you can pick up a card, or you can go out for the round and you're going to score negative points for the cards left in your hand. But the real angst around when you're going to go out, will you draw more cards hoping the numbers get back around to where your cards in your hand are, or do you just drop it, take what you've got and run? I mean, the loser has 40 points. As soon as someone has 40 points, the game's over. So you don't, it's just, you don't want to lose, but you don't want to lose worse. The cool thing is if you get rid of all the cards in your hand, you get to lose a chip. And when you have a 10 value chip of points in front of you as opposed to one, well, you know which one you're getting rid of. So suddenly, you're at 31 points, now you're at 21 just because you cleared your hand. Am I making sense here? It's just so simple, 5-10 minute card game that has so much to offer for me. And I've played it with a couple of kids anyway, and they've loved it too. I just think Llama from Reiner Knizia and Amigo is superb. Number 4, getting near the top now. This is Carnival of Monsters, another Amigo game. This is from Richard Garfield, who designed Magic and, not Ricochet Robots. What was the other robot one? The program, not Ricochet Robots. Probably Rambling Robots or Hack'em Slack'em Robots or Chuck 'em in the gears, grind 'em up robot. What was that game? Has robots in it. I think it was Avalon Hill. This is a card drafting game, Carnival of Monsters, and card drafting is way up there for me as like my favorite ever things to do. I don't think I've played a card drafting game I hate, and often many of them I love, like not just like, but love. So you're passing your hand of cards around, and what you're basically doing is collecting environments for the monsters that you're collecting to live on and do other things as well. So that by the end of each round, you're going to score points for having these monsters caught for some reason. And, there's other things you can draft like player powers and endgame points and stuff. This probably is the third in a trilogy of Richard Garfield games for me. So he did Treasure Hunter, which was a card drafting game from Queen, then Bunny Kingdom, which is from Yellow, and then this one. I say that they're all similar, not just because there's 3 in a trilogy and they're really not connected, but 3 card drafting games in a square box by Richard Garfield. They feel similar to me because unlike most drafting games, really, well, can't say that, but they've got one big deck. So not like in Seven Wonders where there's different decks per round. There's one big deck for the whole game. That's what all these 3 have. And just the way the cards work, or the ratio of the different types of cards he's got in there, that sort of makes me feel like I just realized I skipped number 8 in my list. I'm not going back now. Crikey. What am I talking about? You know what? I'm going to save number 8 for later. I'll come back. Carnival of Monsters. So, who the heck cares if it's like his other games? Anyway, this is my favorite of those three for me. The problem with it is that it doesn't work that good at 2, I think, because you just don't see enough of the deck. So, because it's one deck, it can get skewed each play depending on how the deck is shuffled, what types of cards you're going to see and what you're going to do. But without explaining much of the mechanics to it, just know I like it a lot. It's pretty quick, 30-minute game. I love quick card drafting games, and this is fantastic. How about I leave the top 3 and go back to number 8? I really failed here, didn't I? Number 8 is a card drafting game and a tile laying game. It's called the Isle of Cats. This is one of those games that uses polyominoes, Tetris pieces, and you're filling in your boat with cats that you're rescuing from an island. It's fantasy themed. It's not actually, a cat island. It's pretend. Now you're drafting drafting cards similarly to Carnival of Monsters. It's one big deck, and there's different things in there like endgame scoring cards, things that goals everyone can try and go for. But there's also baskets that you need to catch cats and different and basically what you do is if you're going to catch cats, you use your baskets, use fish that you've also got, and to get one of these tiles and put them on your boat. And what you're trying to do is fill up different parts of your boat, achieve different objectives, some secret, some private, some hidden. Wait, some public, some private, some hidden, some secret, some public. And it's a lot of simple fun. This is very similar to Carnival of Monsters and Foodies for me in that these could be played by families in the mood or gateway gamers in the mood, non full-on gamers in the mood. What the heck am I saying? But even if you're in the mood to play these games, like gamers can like them as well, like full-on hardcore gamers can like these as well. I think that's my sweet spot. A game that fits in a lot of different places and feels. Now, the best thing about Isle of Cats, one of the best things is it's got a fantastic pure family / gateway mode in it that takes the card drafting out and makes it a purely tile laying game, which is another of my top mechanics up there with card drafting. So no surprise I like this, like Carcassonne type stuff. Gets rid of all the strategy and slight randomness of dealing with your hand of cards to determine what you can do each round and just turns it into a patchwork type thing of taking a Tetris piece and filling your boat with the cats and trying to score in different ways. So that's Isle of Cats. Now we'll go to the top 3. Three. Guess what? Number 3 is a card drafting game. I just realized. This game is called Hedara. This was originally from Hans im Gluck in Germany. And for me, mine says Z. Ugh. Look, hands up if you're American. Okay, hands up if you're not. Okay, more people said not, so it's Z-Man Games. Z-Man Games, whatever. This, unfortunately, I've got the cover that isn't quite as good. When they reprinted it, after the first print run, they made it look a bit nicer, the cover. This is a card drafting game that I feel is very similar to Seven Wonders. There's 3 different ages, 3 different rounds with its own deck associated to it that you're drafting. And it's probably as complicated or as heavy as Seven Wonders, so not very, but a bit more than Isle of Cats and Carnival of Monsters probably is. Now, the cool thing about this is you choose from decks. So you're not drafting a hand around the table. You choose a colored deck. Each color represents a different thing for your civilization or your place, your player mat. So red is your military, and green is your feeding, your food, and all that. Blue is like your civil stuff. So you'll have different colors, and you choose from a deck, or you're chosen a deck. You'll pick two cards. One card you will draft into your tablier or sell for money, like in Seven Wonders. Tablier, tableau. And one you'll place face up on the discards. And once all the decks have run out, then you draft the discards. But now you just take one from any deck but the top card, the top most face up card. Now, when you take these cards, it's a little abstract. Basically, most of them will just let you move up tracks. But then these tracks, which are really saying how much military strength you've got and everything else, they let you do stuff at the end of the rounds to get points, like take over colonies. Yes, that's a bit harsh in today's climate, but that's what the game is. Or take over colonies with your military, or you can build statues to honor yourself or your town. You can also earn special endgame goals. So it's quite simple, but each time it feels so different. That's probably why card drafting games are so amazing for me and why I've got one at 8, one at 4, and one at 3 on this list. To be honest, Hadara could fall for me in the coming years because now that I speak about it, I'm thinking it doesn't differentiate itself maybe as much as I thought. I don't know. We'll see. But I know I enjoy playing it, and this list is really based on how much fun I have with these games. This is not an objective list of which game is better or not, just what's more fun for me. That's Hadara. Number 2. This is the game that I didn't get to play for a year. This is Babylonia. This is by Reiner Knizia. Is the publisher Ludanova? Please forgive me if it's not. I'm sure it's similar to that word if it's not that word. Guys and girls, this could get to my top 10 of all time. I don't know yet. I've only played it twice. Yet already I know it's my second favorite game of 2019. That says something, I think. This is like if Samurai, that's a Knizia game, and Through the Desert or Blue Lagoon maybe, other Knizia games, had a child, and that child was Babylonia. It's really interesting. I don't know the story of Babylonia, but after, 25 years or so, Knizia's gone back to the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the cradle of civilization, as it's called, rightly or wrongly, to talk about ziggurats and building monuments and placing out farmers. And wow, just saying that, it sounds like his game Tigris and Euphrates, doesn't it? Yellow and Yangtze's really good too. But this is totally different because all you're doing is placing discs or tiles on this map, which, yeah, similar to Tigris, but you're not trying to build states, you're trying to build connections between the cities on the board and to surround them and the ziggurats to score in different ways. Basically, you've got 4 different types of tiles. You've got farmers and then 3 different nobles, which represent, I think, the priesthood, the civil servants, and the something else, not royalty. I think it's a jug. I don't know what it means. I forget. And on your turn, you can either play just 2 tiles, discs, or as many farmers as you like. And what you're trying to do is encircle and connect. So when a city is encircled, it will show on that city one or more icon, and basically everyone who is touching that city counts all of that icon that is connected through their colors to that city, and they score 2 points per icon. But also the player who had the most tiles surrounding it will earn that city, and then everyone will score 1 point per city they currently have. The ziggurats, when you encircle them, or when they are encircled, the person with the most tiles encircling it gets a choice of a special power, which is very unique for a Knizia game, very interesting. There's also farms where if you're next to a farm, you can put a farmer on that farm and earn something straight away, usually 6, 7, or 8 points. But after you play it, just once. Strategies abound. Like this is one of those classic Knizia games where you play it, you read the rules and you're like, wait, that's it? And I've learned, trust the doctor. The doctor knows best. But still, that simple rule book tricked me, and I didn't think there was much there. But then when you play it, you realize, hang on, what I want to do, maybe, is get other people to close round cities and ziggurats and just make sure I'm connected everywhere. So each time, even if I'm not earning a city, which is good too, but I'm still scoring points every time. The second game I played of this was great because one player zoomed out, they almost lapped us around the scoreboard, probably 50 points ahead or 100 points ahead. But then when the long-term connected cities started scoring, 20 points a time, that distance was bridged. And in the end, in this three-player game, I think we're all 3 or 4 points apart. It was just really cool. It's quite epic for its 30-minute playtime. It looks really good. I got the second printing, so they fixed the components a bit. It's just really good, really solid. You have to like this type of game, though. I'm not sure this will ever, in today's climate, it's not going to get to the top 10 on BGG like Tigris and similar things would have in the past, but it deserves, like, it's that good to be considered in the same breath as Knizia's classics from the 90s or so. Really. I mean, just talking about that. So what are his top ones ever? So, and I'm not counting card games like Lost Cities, though they're definitely, and Shot and Totten, definitely up there. But let's look at his big board games. So you got or medium ones. You'd have to have Ra, Medici, you'd have to have Modern Art, you'd have to have Tigris, you'd have to have, I guess, Through the Desert, Samurai, you'd have to have Amun-Re, Taj Mahal maybe. These are his big, popular, cult classic, big games, right? I'm probably missing something. Just the big ones, not the light ones or the medium. These are the heavier ones. I reckon you've really got to put Babylonia in there now too, and probably Yellow and Yangtze. Um, yeah, it's just amazing, and I love Blue Lagoon still. I think some people have said this replaces Blue Lagoon. I still love that because it's similar, but you're doing different things. Um, Gee, that's a good topic. What are his best games? I mean, everyone has their favorites, but best Blue Moon. Um, Medici the card game I like. Trendy. All right, that's number two. Now it's time for number one. My favorite game of 2019 was a bit of a surprise. I mean, I thought I was going to like it going in, but it's blown me away. I've played it just 4 or 5 times, maybe. This is one that could get to be in my personal top 10 list of all time, which I haven't changed in years. So that says how good this is. And I think Babylonia might get in there too, without having looked at what it is. Maybe that's another topic, hey? Go through David's top 10 of all time. Why are they the best of all time? He. I don't know. This game is from AEG. Yeah, I don't know. This game is from, what's his name? He's like the AEG king at the moment. Like everything he does comes out with. Is it not Brett Gilbert? That's the Elysium partner person. I'm looking it up live. This game is designed by. I can't believe I forgot his name. John D. Clare. The game is called Ecos, or Ecos. The first continent, and this is basically a game where you get to be gods. Not really, but you sort of are. You're building up a land in front of you, building it up with tiles that are either desert or grass or water, filling it up with mountains and trees and animals. And I've played this, as I said, maybe 5 times, and each time this board has built itself in totally different ways. Every game is unique in its feel. Every game will see different combos, powers, swings and sways, flows and blows. This game is basically Augustus, which is basically bingo, for hardcore gamers. This game plays about 45 minutes, 2 to 4 players, I believe. Maybe it's 5 players, and I've never played it there. And basically, what you're doing is pulling tiles from a bag that represent different elements or different things, and you call it out, and then everyone gets to look at the cards in front of them and place a cube on an icon if they have it matching that tile on one of their cards. And you're going until you complete a card. Now, unlike in Augustus, that card just doesn't then go away and score you points or give you a benefit. You then use the card when it's full of these cubes, giving you a cool, funky power to do. Put some antelope on the board. Move the antelope over the board, put a mountain down, add a desert tile, all this stuff. And then depending on if you do it, you then get special bonuses, powers, points. But each card has a number of uses as well. So then you will rotate that card, and if it still has uses, you can use it again. And you build up this great engine with combos that just go off. And I mean, it's just amazing. I don't know how to say it, but I love engine building. I love combos and I in card games, and I love that bingo mechanic. I mean, Augustus, Karuba, all that stuff. Just love those games. They would all be in my top keep forever games, and this is in there too. And I don't know, like something about this game is a bit weird, but everything else is just a bit fantastic. I'm not saying everyone will love this game as much as I do, but I just love it. I just love it. I just love it. Just something about that bingo thing to give you powers, to give you a way to affect the board and usually score lots of points, and you build up. Oh, I know I want lots of antelope on the board and I want them in these places, so I'm going to build up, then boom, all these points. And it's the first to a certain number of points that wins. And oh, it's just good. Now, the way that it takes, clearly John D. Clare played Augustus. It takes the basic engine from that. But there's some things that he does that make it even cooler, better. Basically, here's the best thing. If an icon is called from the bag that you don't have or don't want to use, that's not the end of your go. You can rotate this other little thing that everyone has. And as you rotate that around, it unlocks different powers for you to do, like get another cube to place on cards, which is important, or draw cards or whatever. And that's just really good, just that alone. But there's other things too, and I love the spatial side of this game and the way it looks on the table. You could really see the story of the game each time you play, and every game is different. Oof. So that's my top 10 of 2019 in audio form. Hope you enjoyed it. I've already got some cool favorites from 2020 I'm looking at right now that I want to talk about, because as I sit here, I'm looking at my games like some king over his board and dice, and gee, there's some good ones to talk about next year. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. All right, next on the show, and it is a show, the question I got this week wasn't really a question, it's a comment actually. Maybe I didn't get any questions. It's somebody, what was their name? Oh, I can't look because that'd wreck my recording, I think. I'll try. Their name was Rodney. Rodney 1210. Gee, hope that's not the year he was born. That would turn him into some sort of 810-year-old vampire gargoyle thing. But Rodney 1210, who I'm sure is actually a very handsome young person, at least under 100, he wanted to know how I started working with Rainer Knizia, but also how I started Grail Games. I'm actually, not to be rude, but hey, this was the only question. I can't spend a lot of time on it because just this year in 2 places, I think it was this year. No, one was last year and one was this year. In 2 places, You can hear me talk about this ad nauseum. One is in uh, Mark's, what's the podcast called? Board Games to Go. I think it came out January 2019. Look up that podcast. I'm on there and I give a detailed response to how Grail Games began. And then this year, I think it came out in April, May, June. Ah, it was recorded in December, I think. I've forgotten when it came out. But if you go to the podcast, 5 Games for Doomsday, and just scroll till you get to my name, David Harding. Listen to that episode. I talk about the start of Grail Games in a much more professional yet also emotional place. And also, I'm not just saying this so I don't have to answer the questions. Those are 2 great podcasts that you should be subscribed to anyway, I think. Please listen to those shows, but I will just give you this sort of quick rundown. Basically, in my past, I've been a graphic designer, I've been an author. So I thought, and I also worked in, other things, but those 2 things specifically I thought would be good to make publishing work. Then, because I'd always been designing games and my brother Philip had gotten quite successful at it, I thought, this is over years. I thought, oh, I could design a game and put it out. But it wasn't until Kickstarter was coming to Australia that I knew I could actually do it. So I got practice when my brother, under his label, kickstarted 11s as my first design. And you can hear about that in my second podcast episode. This is the 5th, just go back to the second. And I probably talk about it a lot there. But from watching my brother run that campaign, I learned how it's done, I guess. Then he helped me get in touch with some like distributors and people and other foreign, that's a bit of a strange word, overseas publishers, got a bit of a network going. So to cut a long story short, I used my previous life experience mixed with my current gaming experience, mixed with my new how the industry of board gaming works to cut my teeth on 101 on Kickstarter. Go back to listen to episode 1 of this show to hear about that. Um, and it just sort of grew. I did have a plan. The plan mostly was followed, but it didn't really succeed in getting me rich or anything like that. But it was fun along the way. And this all began in 2014. So it's now been 6 years almost to the month. It was July 1st, 2014, I officially began Grail Games. And it's been going on. So the reason why the goals of the company originally was to reprint non-English games into English, hence the Grail idea, games that were hard to get, and reprints, hence the Grail idea, games that were hard to get. Those were the 2 things I wanted to focus on, but I started with games I designed so that if I made any mistakes, no one else would cry but me. And it's just grown from that. I do now do just as many non-reprints as reprints, but they still feel like a Grail game. So I've gone away from small card games as much as I love them, and I'm more into the family to medium weight, slightly Eurocentric board game. Whale Riders, my most recent Kickstarter, is a great example of what I sort of look for. The next one, Hibachi, is a reprint, but redone in a similar vein. Don't know what that means. And the game's coming out next year. I mean, I've got my heaviest game yet, unless Yellow and Yangtze, it's probably similar. And a reprint or 2, and a lighter game or 2. But that's sort of where it's coming, and I can't wait to talk about that stuff. But I'm waiting for Essen online. So that was a bit of a, sorry Rodney, not a very complete answer, but it gives you a basic overview, and I'd love you to go listen to those other shows. 5 Games for Doomsday with me from a few months ago, and Board Games to Go with me from 18 months ago. And I talk about how the company started at length. And I think episodes 1 and 2 of this particular show will help you to find the answers you seek as well. Okay, it's time for that time of the show where the time is ripe to talk about the time I released a game called Matcha. So every episode, I go to the next thing in my list of games that Grail has released. Started with 101, 11s, 11s for one. What was last time? What was last time? Oh, Too Many Cinderellas. Huh. Gee, this feels like years ago. I mean, like more than 5 years ago. Feels like 20 years ago, seriously. And this time it is Matcha. Matcha. It's going to start getting interesting, folks, don't worry. But we'll get through these games first. Okay, Matcha. Okay, so Matcha, if you didn't know it, is the fourth game in my Mike line of small card games. It is for 2 players only. It has 18 cards, I think, from memory. 4 suits of cards numbered 1 to 4, and 2 white 0 cards. There's an order to the ranking of the cards. So obviously 4 beats a 3 beats a 2 beats a 1, but also green beats, is it red beats blue beats yellow, I think? And green is tea leaves, blue is water, red is the bowl, yellow is the tea scoop that in a Japanese tea ceremony you use to put the tea in the water with the bowl. Now on the table there are some tatami mats, some Japanese flooring mats, where you place cards from this deck that the other players are trying to match with cards from their hand. 2 cards are removed from the game without looking, so you've got 8 cards. You've got uh, between the cards on the table and the cards in the hands of the 2 players, just 16 cards, and you have to try and predict where the other players are going. You have to try and match those cards on the table in order to gain a piece that matches that. So if you match blue, you'll get a water drop piece. And but you also want to not match, because if you don't match, you get a tea whisk, which are white pieces. It's the only way to get one of those. If both of you don't match, no one gets anything. If both of you match the card when the card is revealed that you played next to the card on the table, whoever had the higher ranked match will win that piece. And you win by having a certain number of one type of piece or a complete set. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Basically, this game came from, first I'll tell you how and why I designed it, then how and why I produced it. It's a bit interesting, maybe, especially if you've played the game and you're one of the 3 people that care about the game. Thanks for listening, by the way. So when I designed 11s, it was going to be an 11 card only game. I wanted to design a micro game that small. Please listen to episode 2 for more on that. But it ended up being 44 cards plus some other cards. For this, I went, no, you know what? I still want to design that micro game. And I went back and forth with this design for months and months. My poor brother and cousin had to play many iterations of this just because I work in a school library. At the library I used to work at, I had found a drawer full of hundreds and hundreds of old like catalog cards that weren't used anymore. And so I made the original game that became Matcha on those cards, and they had to play it so many times on those cards. Anyway, just my biro on those cards. I had the basic idea of what I wanted, which is pretty close, my basic idea. But it took months and months and months to get to Matcha, to get it actually to work as this game where you're bluffing and predicting and deducting in order to quickly earn a certain thing to win. I really wanted it to be micro and quick, but tense and angsty, a 2-player game like in the Battle Line sort of tradition of that type of thing, but that's over quick and has all sorts of meaningful choices in as fewer cards as possible. It did end up getting bigger than expected, so 18 cards may not sound big, but I was trying to go for smaller than that. And it changed its theme a lot and where it was going, and it took a long time, as I said, but when it finally worked, I remember my cousin said something like, I think that's what you wanted. I think you've got there. I think it feels the way it's meant to feel. And I went, phew, you're right. I ended up making it Japanese tea themed, not early on, but before it was finished, with the idea of this could be a follow-up to Elevenses, which is about English tea, traditional English tea. This is the other big tea culture, at least in from that I knew something of. I know there's China would just, and other Asian countries would get cross at me for saying that. But Japan, I always knew the tea ceremony tradition basically because of the big scene in Karate Kid 2. And if you haven't seen that, wow, great movie, great scene. So, and at the time we were drinking a lot of Japanese teas. So it just seemed like a good theme. So I went to the same artist as well. So it was a companion piece. By now, I'd learned that Kickstarter is not really the place to go if you don't have a game that can be improved or expanded too much. A micro game is going to find it hard to do well on Kickstarter. Now, that's not saying now I would still go to Kickstarter with it. I think even if it um, wouldn't have stretch goals, just to find some fans and the money required to produce it. Um, Of course, if I was a bigger company, I'd just put it out. These little card games are so cheap to do if you've got the money. But I tried a pre-order system, and I don't remember how many I sold, but I sold enough pre-ordered. Surprisingly, I mean, thanks, guys and girls. They're like, really, thank you. So flattered that anyone would have. I'm stunned anyone even stumbled upon that pre-order. I don't think I made enough through the pre-orders to fund the production, but enough to think, okay, this is okay. And I had some nice wooden pieces in there, well, the nicest I could afford, and I put it out in the wild, and surprisingly, it got some great reviews from Dan, the Board Game Geek, and Tom Vassell in particular. And I was like, wow. It didn't really do much after that, but hey, I'm flattered it sold out its 3,000 print run. And it was just something fun that I did, and I was very proud of the design just because it was what I wanted it to be. It was a struggle to get it there, but after just iteration after iteration, test after test, finally it was that tense two-player head-to-head mini card game I wanted. And it looked pretty. And then, bit over a year ago, so last Gen Con 2019 August, but in the lead up to that, Arno from Matago said how much he loved it to me, and I was like, what? It has fans? And he plays it all the time, and he played it tons, and it's not really been announced. It's sort of released in the last couple of months in France, a new edition. Because Grail Games has moved away from the little card games, I gave Matago the rights. They've done an English slash French, maybe even Dutch is in there too. I haven't seen the final copy yet. New version of Matcha. It doesn't have the wooden pieces, it has cardboard, but it gave me the opportunity to go back and revisit the rules, and a couple of things have been streamlined and fixed, I think, after it's now been played 1,000 more times. And if you want to know those changes, they're in Board Game Geek. Just go to Matcha, and someone asked the question, and I told them. And it makes it a better game that I'm even more proud of now. So check it out. Isn't that funny how games go full circle, just like in life? Things happen and happen again. So, so true. All right, last topic. It's our game show. I better stop or Gandalf will ring back. Last time I had a game show and no one entered. Thank you. You know what? I forgot about it anyway, so I don't have prizes or anything. But if you'd like to enter, we'll call that the first draft. Here's the real um, prelude to the actual edition of the game show, which will be next time when I might give out a prize. Maybe people didn't understand it, so we'll give you another practice go. Please, the first person to write in the comments below the correct answers will win. I don't know yet. Just leave it with me. I'll think about it. And obviously, I should say a Grail game, but I don't have any here. I'll think about it. Maybe you will win a prize. So let's go through the answers for last week, because maybe you did enter, but you forgot to tell me. Like you figured it out, but didn't write it down. So there were 3 clues last time. The first cryptic clue for a board game title was an igloo for your bulb vegetable. And this, of course, the answer was Dominion. Dome, onion. Dome, an igloo for your bulb vegetable. Onion, dominion. Get it? Actually, now that I say that, I'm not surprised no one got it. I thought it made sense. So the first one is Dominion. The second cryptic clue last week was, what will I cook this bird in? What will I cook this bird in? And that was, of course, wings pan. Wings pan. Wingspan. That's what you'll cook a bird in, a wings pan. Get it? I don't think you got it. So that was answer 2. Question 3 was, give this Mexican food a go. Give this Mexican food a go. And it was tapas try. Tapestry. Get it? Tapestry? It's a game. Tapas, try it. Try tapas. Give this Mexican food a go. Tapestry. Get it? So here are the 3 for this week. First person to answer in the comments below will win a prize. If I can think of a prize, this is not official. You might not win a prize. Here we go. Cryptic clue number 1. These are all board game titles, the answers. It is. Number 1. This is a sad place of safety or refuge. This is a sad place of safety or refuge. Number 1 is, this is a sad place of safety or refuge. Number 2 is, Elizabeth is being crushed by a snake. Elizabeth, she's being crushed by a snake. It's squeezing her will to live. That's number 2. Number 3, what board game is this? Once every now and then I am in the metropolis. Once every now and then I am in the metropolis. Once every now and then I'm in the metropolis. Like not all the time, just sometimes. Once every now and then I'm in the metropolis. Oh. So that's the board game show. Enjoy. And thanks for listening to David's Board Shorts on YouTube.